Hey, Kevin, Coach Kyrie Joe just talked about how, adversity can be a good thing. You don't want to be in a position where you've lost four in a row, but so much has been thrown at you guys. What do you hope to gain and learn through this experience, given the teams you've been competing against lately?
Just know what we have to do on both ends of the floor at all times is knowing the level of efficiency we got to have on both ends of the floor. It's just the small things. I think that's usually the last part that takes you over the top is the small things. Offensive rebound, being in the right spots, not being a split second late on switches, not point switching, just the little stuff. I think we're seeing right now that's the difference in winning and losing, and guys are conscious of that, and I think we'll get better from it.
It was a make or miss league, but aside from that, what else stood out to you in terms of execution in the fourth quarter that made the difference in the game?
I gotta make them shots. I mean, I feel like I got good looks and I didn't make them, and I feel like if I'd have made them, that would have settled the team down. So that's a huge part of why things go well for us.
Christian Winfield with the New York Daily News.
Hey, Kevin, kind of piggybacking off of that, it's not that often that we see you have an off shooting night like tonight. What was I think 0 for 4 from deep? Do you change anything up after a game where you don't have a shooting night to your standard, or is it just you trust your work and come back the next game and keep everything the same?
Yeah, just trust my work, and most of the time is a mentality switch on what I need to do to be more effective and more efficient. And tonight I tried shots that I shouldn't have tried. I shot over a double team one time in the fourth. I shot a runner going to the left. Just trying to get into the game, scoring wise, and sometimes that may push me out of the game, when I try those tough ones. But it's all a learning experience. I'm glad it's happening now for us instead of in a couple of weeks, and hopefully we build off of this and keep growing. And I hope we feel this pain, I guess, from losing, feeling like we're not where we want to be. I like this position for us, and I think it's going to make us better as we continue to keep watching film, going through practice, going through shoot-arounds, and then playing a game.
Alex Schiffer with The Athletic.
Hey, Kevin. Steve and Kyrie touched a bit on the turnovers in the second half. I mean, in the first half with you guys, you were pretty good with them. I think you only had 4. Just was there anything they did defensively or to kind of force more? Or was it something maybe on your guys' end that led to the increase in them?
I think a lot of the times we came down on offense and didn't know what we were in, and we just happen to make bad passes. I mean, 13 turnovers is a solid number, but after only 4 in the first half, we got to be better in the second half. And I think they feel like they capitalize on everything that we every offensive rebound, every turnover. It felt like they capitalized on. So that's the difference between winning and losing.
Malika Andrews with ESPN.
Kevin, Kyrie mentioned that he looks at this kind of losing streak now differently maybe than he would have at a different point in his career. Do you now, in this year in your playing career, see this type of, pressure or pain, I think was the word you used, maybe as a different motivator than you would a couple of years ago when you were maybe in a similar spot or could have been?
I mean, losing sucks. I mean, no matter what time of the year it's in, no matter who it's against, I mean, been feeling the same way about losing since I was 8 years old, since I started playing. So, it's always been about get up the next day and go back to work. So that's the same mentality I'm gonna keep.
Thank you. I'm gonna adopt that one.
Matt Brooks with Nets Daily.
Hey, Kevin. Kyrie just said that you guys were getting into a little bit too much isolation basketball and just was sort of talking about wanting to run a few more sets. I was just curious about what brings that about. Is that a lack of familiarity thing? Is that just you guys not focusing at those big moments? What do you think caused that specifically tonight?
I mean, we feel like we could take our matchup. A lot of guys feel like they can go score on guys. And sometimes, that's valuable to us as an offense. But when teams start to load up and they start to send a couple guys at our scores, we got to start moving in and running plays. But, we're still trying to figure out that balance. Well, we understand that balance, but it's a matter of us putting it into action and keep building. And I know we say the same stuff about growing and getting better, but it really is like that. I mean, every day is important for us.
Greg Logan with Newsday.
Kevin, this was your 35th different starting lineup tonight, and Steve has talked about the importance of trying to have common experience. James, maybe he'll get back before the end of the regular season, but how tough is it to just pull it all together when you really haven't had all this much time together?
It's not tough at all. It's on us as players and professionals to go out there and be professionals. And coach put us in positions. Sometimes they might not be as comfortable as you're used to when it comes to different lineups and being in and out of it. But we're pros. We get paid to adapt, and it's not an excuse for us.
Are you noticing? I know every game is unique and different, but are you noticing any commonalities in these last 4 games that you guys want to clean up?
It's about time we got tested, in terms of just having to think the game on a different level, knowing that teams are shaping up for the playoffs. And we've done our best to make sure that we're ready to play, but now we got to think the game going against some of these good teams, especially on the road. It's inevitable in terms of going into other people's home floors. They know the rims well. They know the courts well. Everybody feels comfortable when they're home. So we just got to be aware of that. And I think these last few games have proven that. It's tough to win on the road when you're making mistakes, turning the ball over. And, sometimes throughout the possessions in a game, you're not playing with the resolve you would want. So stuff happens, but I think it's good that we have these tests now and these challenges. It's been too easy at times. So it's good.
What are you, on that point, what are you guys learning about yourselves? Coach Joe Harris also talked about adversity being a good thing and this being important before you start that postseason run. What are you learning about yourselves right now?
I think I would have a different answer for you if I was in year 6 or year 5. I'm in year 10, so I've been through just different journeys. I've failed, I've succeeded, I've been in a role where I've wanted to play that role. I've been in roles where I didn't want to play, and I think that's the beauty of journeys. Being on a team is we have to define that identity. We could say that we learn a lot about ourselves through the game of basketball, but really it's just the mind and the body being on one accord, and then us being on the same page. It's basketball. We're not going to overcomplicate it. We're not going to make it like this is a war, this is this, and it's not an overcomplicate. It's the game of basketball. It's just who's better that night, who's going to stop the other team and be more physical, and who's going to make the right plays, from beginning to end. So, we're not going to make it about semantics or feeling good. It's basketball. I'm not even going to bring that in here. So it's good.
Brian Lewis with the New York Post.
Hey, Kai. Going back to your thoughts about thinking the game against some of these really good teams that you're playing down the stretch, is that elevated in the fourth quarter of these games? 18-1 in Milwaukee the other night, and tonight I think it was like 13-2, gave up like 60% shooting. Is that elevated in these fourth quarters?
Other teams know, especially when they're playing at home, that this fourth quarter is winning time in terms of picking up the pace. Both second units are in. Some starters are in sometimes, so the game could have different flows. If you look at the Bucks game, primarily they have 4 starters on the floor starting the fourth quarter. That they need to have that type of separation in the game, with their players. And tonight, some starters were in with that second unit, but primarily, we had a few starters in, or KD in, and just figuring it out in the fourth quarter. But our level of play has to match or to overpower, overmatch our opponent. And as you've seen it, when teams go on runs, we get a timeout, but we got to be able to respond. And I think it goes back to my first point. It's just we need to be tested like that. We're not a perfect basketball club. I don't think we would be doing ourselves a great service if we weren't honest. We haven't played well in terms of spurts throughout the game, especially when it matters. And we just got to get better continuity down the stretch. The ISO basketball down the stretch is not going to get us over the hump. We just got to run some quality plays, some quality possessions, and then figure out a balance of where we're special with our ISO game and our ability to score. So just finding a balance right now, but it's good for it.
Greg Logan with Newsday.
Hi, Kyrie. Tonight was the 35th different starting lineup you guys have had. Steve talked about how You don't really have the common experience together. Just how daunting has it been to go through this period with all these injuries and can you, you're a week from the end of the season, can you pull it all together when Harden comes back?
Greg, I don't know about daunting, daunting in this game, in this business, I don't know about that, but it's been an adjustment for us to learn one another on the fly, learn each other's games on the fly, 35 games with different lineups, you're learning on the fly. So, and we can say we're professionals. We know what to expect from one another. When things are going well, we're happy, hooray. And then when things are not going well, we need to do this. We need to make some adjustments. And I think that's normal. That's healthy. But for us, we're really just focused on our health first. And we want to get guys prepared for whatever that next stage looks like, the main stage looks like when things matter and it's win or go home. You just want to be as healthy as possible. And then you get hot at a certain point. Use your experience to your advantage. You get a few guys back, try different lineups in the lineup that match up against the team. You get a chance to really dive in. But right now, it's good that we're on this road being tested.
Malika Andrews.
Hasn't been daunting, Greg.
Malika Andrews with ESPN.
I'm glad it hasn't been daunting, Kyrie.
Our life can't be that. Life's too simple.
If you're lucky. Before you took off on this road trip, you told me that it would be successful if potentially you guys got back to doing things, you continue to do things the right way, if you played well, and maybe it means a little bit more just because of where it falls in the season. You've talked a lot tonight about kind of the X's and O's of what you need to do better on the court, but kind of from a more macro philosophical perspective of the team, I mean, getting back to doing things the right way, is there an energy or an effort that you think needs to be exerted that isn't, or is it just about playing through it and it'll all come in time?
Well, you can't make up time spent with anyone unless you just go do it, and we are in we're in a part of our journey right now where, like I said, we're being challenged and we have to look deep within in terms of what can each one of us do in our roles to be better for the collective unit. It has to be about our team. It has to be about we. And I think we do a great job of that. But now we are asking each other to raise or to go to a certain level. Some of us have been on these championship levels, some of us have not. And trying to mesh that together takes time. Usually it takes teams, 1 or 2 seasons, 3 seasons, or the case may be. But now we're heading into, kind of this playoff run where we have to make it up on the fly. And that's okay. But at the same time, things are not going to look perfect, and we have to inevitably be ready for that. So, us as leaders, myself, all the rest of the leaders on our team are going to do a great job just preparing one another and just simplifying things. But it starts with the mind and the body being on the same page. And you got to think the game. It's the only way you're going to win that gold ball, that Larry O'Brien, is you got to think the game and you got to play defense and you got to overmatch physicality. We've seen it, defense wins championships. We've seen some of the best offensive teams, get by, but defensively is where we got to make our mark. And I feel like we'll be able to do that moving forward, just having these tests and challenges now.
Bruce Beck with NBC New York.
Kyrie, you defied logic and gravity a lot tonight with shots that could have been taken from San Antonio and Houston. I'm just wondering if scoring 45 in a game like this, if the joy is somewhat taken away by a loss.
Great individual performance, but like I said, and I've said it throughout my career, just throw that one away. It was one of those performances, great, but it's about us. It's about that win column, and it's about doing things that we can carry on to the next game, finding that consistency. Scored a bunch of points in my career, empty points, a lot of empty points, and right now I just want to score when it matters and do what's needed for us to be successful as a team. So whatever that takes, if it means 45 tonight. In terms of getting a win, great. If it means getting 12 points, only shoot 9 times, 8 times, and we get the win still, same emotion, same happiness.
Hey, Joe, in your mind, what was the difference in that fourth quarter?
I mean, there's a number. I thought we we started off, the momentum shifted a little bit because we played well in the third. I think, getting a little careless with the ball, maybe taking some tough shots, but then just defensively too, not being able to kind of get stops when we needed to. But they did hit some tough buckets, and the momentum shifted just a little bit.
It's tough, tough competition you guys have, leading up into the postseason, especially during this particular stretch. What are you guys learning? What are you hoping to get out of this late push before the postseason?
Well, I think honestly, even though it's tough right now, it's good for us to experience some adversity. We're a group that has, we've got guys in and out all season long, different lineups. We're finally starting to get closer to having a lineup at full strength, but this is really the first time with a lot of guys playing together and shortening down the rotation a little bit as well. So, it's obviously a difficult time right now, but it's certainly better to go through this now versus, in a playoff stretch.
Alex Schiffer with The Athletic.
Hey, Joe, do you see any common thread between these 4 losses, or they all have their different problems and causes?
Yeah, there's not, one or two things that you just pinpointed on and say that we did these wrong, the last 4 games. I think one, we're obviously playing against some high-level teams, and I think it's a lot of little stuff that we got to clean up, but it sort of has varied by the game. Whether it's getting back in transition, not allowing second chance opportunities, being able to individually kind of stay in front of your guy, guard your yard. So it's sort of varied over the last 4 games, but it hinges on a lot of different particular things.
Christian Winfield with the New York Daily News.
Hey Joe, it's not every day that we see Kevin have a cold shooting night. So I'm wondering, as the game's going on and it's getting to the fourth quarter, are you kind of seeing him shoot some of these shots and expecting them to drop and then they're not falling? And what do you say to a guy like Kevin who doesn't really have off shooting nights when he has one?
Obviously just keep getting him the ball, getting him in positions where maybe he can get an easier look. I don't think anybody thought twice about, him having an off shooting night. I didn't even really realize it until you look at the stat sheet at the end of the game.
Brian Lewis with the New York Post.
Hey, Joe, I recognize that a 10-0 run counts the same, whether it's the first quarter or the third quarter, but how mildly concerning is it that you have a common thread of these runs coming against you guys in the fourth quarter? I mean, the 18-1 the other night in Milwaukee, and now whatever it was, 13-2. How concerning is that?
It's definitely concerning. I think, the fourth quarter is obviously when you're hoping to be at your sharpest. You definitely don't want to put yourself in the position where you have to be, but you hope that it's, collective over the course of the game where you can play a full 48. But certainly the fourth quarter is where, you really got to be able to lock in, focus, and execute.
Malika Andrews with ESPN.
Hey, Joe, Steve kind of shared a similar sentiment about looking at this stretch as a positive in terms of getting some adversity underneath your belt. But how do you walk that line between having it be a good thing to playoff test you and having a losing streak steamroll into what is right now the longest of your season?
Well, if anything, it gives us, probably more of a sense of urgency to go out and get a win. So, our next game against Denver, I know guys are pissed off. And I think the level of focus, we know the playoffs are right around the corner, so the level of focus is definitely amplified a bit. But I think just now, given our circumstance where, we have lost 4 in a row, there is definitely a sense of urgency there to go out and get a win. But, I don't think, I don't think anybody's necessarily looking at it as big of a negative or trying to create that sort of narrative around it. You got to do exactly what Steve said. You have to look at this as sort of a positive opportunity where, all right, this is good for us to experience some sort of adversity, especially here late in the year. And, hopefully we can, use it to our advantage and finish out the season the right way.
Thank you.
Bruce Beck with NBC New York.
So, Joe, are you worried at all right now about your ball club?
No, I wouldn't say I'm worried. And I don't think anybody in the locker room is necessarily worried. This is just a tough stretch of games. Obviously, we haven't lost 4 in a row at all this season, but this is what happens over the course of the season. It could happen, earlier in January, February, and it'd probably be a lot of the same questions. You'd probably be feeling a similar sort of way. But we still have 5 games left now to right the ship, get ourselves playing better basketball, and hopefully carry a little bit more momentum in a positive way going into the postseason.
Last question, Matt Brooks with Nets Daily.
Hey, Joe, do you think the timing for, this is kind of a weird philosophical question, but do you think the timing for a losing streak matters? Like, are you, I know you're not worried right now, but are you, not wanting to necessarily carry this losing streak at a time that coincides too much with the playoffs, or are you guys just not worried at all whatsoever about it?
I mean, regardless of the timing and the schedule, you never want to lose any 4 games in a row. I think we're just trying to make, you're trying to have as positive an outlook on what's happening as possible. And that's the best way to do it. I mean, we could literally bitch and complain to each other about a whole bunch of different stuff, but there's no good that comes out of it. I think, for us, it's really just hopefully going to tighten up the group, bring us a little bit closer together, because when you go through difficult times, I think that's when, you really, you create sort of this bond that, you wouldn't otherwise maybe have. So, for us to have this now, yeah, it's tough and it sucks, but at the same time, we still have 5 games to get ourselves right. And I think, to a man in the locker room, there is definitely a sense of urgency to go out and get ourselves right against Denver.